Please subscribe to Bear Nerd Fun. Smash the like button. Goodbye.
Hail to all. We do not need. Hail to all. Hail to all. Now come on, Hollywood. Stop smelling your own farts. You might get mistaken for arse sniffers. Remember, when you go woke, you go broke. Hail to the fandom menace. Hail to all. How's everyone doing? Well, I was perusing Twitter feed, and someone shared this. And the new Star Wars trilogy is worse than the prequels. Commentary: 4 lessons Disney failed to learn from George Lucas at his worst. Look, folks, CNET. They're part of the Access Media. CNET is. Wow. I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough. It gets everywhere. It's one of the most painful lines in Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, and it's only made worse by Anakin's halting delivery and awkward hand stroking of Padme. I think that was a little over the top. That's why they're Access Media. It's no wonder, after so many terrible creative decisions in that prequel trilogy, that so many fans were excited when Disney tapped the rock steady J.J. Abrams to take the lead on the new trilogy of Star Wars movies. Unlike George Lucas, Abrams can write dialogue. Oh, I'm sorry, back to the article. That isn't excruciating, and more importantly, he's proved himself a gifted guide for large franchises with untapped potential. Mission Impossible, Star Trek, Cloverfield, and yet, they've proven that they know how to destroy franchises. Yep, there we go. Yeah. As the Disney Star Wars trilogy draws to a close, I find myself genuinely longing for the days of the prequels. What I'm feeling isn't nostalgia, and it isn't ironic love for schlocky cinema that animates the prequel memeing Redditors either. What I miss is the daring. Nobody can say George didn't swing for the fences with the prequels. After all, the same experimentalism that gave us Binks and Sand dialogue also gave us the iconic Darth Maul duel and best opening sequence in any Star Wars movie, and so much more. And the end of Return of the Jedi, Yoda tells Luke to pass on what he's learned. Here are 4 pieces of wisdom that made the prequels better than the Disney trilogy. Size matters not. Yoda. From the start, Star Wars has been about the set pieces, elaborate action scenes that leave our hands sweaty and white-knuckled on armrests. Sure, the original trilogy is a mythic story starring a charismatic cast that didn't get used in the new Star Wars that Disney made. That cast. Oh, back to the article. But everyone remembers the Death Star run, Luke hobbling those AT-ATs, and Boba Fett plummeting into the Sarlacc pit. Lucas has always pushed the boundaries of VFX, both practical and digital, despite his ambition. What you're neglecting to mention is he created the majority of this stuff from the ground up. How about you mention that? Oh, back to the article. He understood that the best set pieces aren't always the biggest ones. Where Lucas packed his movies, prequels included, with small yet boundary-pushing moments, Disney has opted for much more standard derivative, if competently staged, action fare. I find it wanting what Disney has done. So, Fisney. Compare, for instance, the space chase involving Obi-Wan and Jango Fett in Attack of the Clones with the first flight of the Millennium Falcon in The Force Awakens. Nearly 20 years separates these two scenes, and the acting in Abrams' installments is uniformly stronger. Yeah. That said, Lucas graphed something more than a slick chase scene and with tight maneuvering and flashy, quick zooms. He plays with sound design, giving different ships and weapons different identities. He turns predator into prey halfway through the scene. He gives each side of the chase stakes, putting a child in one ship and a Jedi in the other. Disney Star Wars movies just don't innovate. I would have to agree that they don't innovate. Disney, no. If you want more examples, look at the planets themselves. The new Star Wars episodes 7 and 8 both recycle planets willy-nilly from earlier Star Wars movies. Desert planet, check. Forest, snow, city planet, check, check, check. Lucas excelled at creating the visual vernacular for each planet within minutes of arriving. Tatooine, in particular, shone with its ecosystems of Tusken Raiders, Jawas, farmers, and the uncomfortable colonial presence of Bantha riding stormtroopers. Just a little point out, Tatooine was controlled by the Hutts, they're gangsters, and they allowed the Empire to do whatever they wanted because it made them money, because they're gangsters. You could have put that in your article. The Last Jedi's planets were more visually inventive than those from The Force Awakens. But even the Vegas-like Canto Bite was absent the small cultural touches that made Jabba's den on Coruscant feel so lived in. When The Phantom Menace came out in 1999, yes, I was there at the theater and went and seen it, the same year as The Matrix. Critic Robert Egert called it an astonishing achievement in imaginative filmmaking. And filmmaker Kevin Smith said, "I'm sure in about a week it's going to become quite fashionable to bash this flick hard. But I like to go on record as saying I dug it. It's a good movie with great moments. The new movie set pieces have been solid, even occasionally good, but they've never been great. Your focus determines your reality," Qui-Gon Jinn said once. Okay, so I can't argue the moment-to-moment writing of the prequels is better than the Disney trilogy. It's not. Okay, so I can't argue the moment-to-moment writing of the prequels is better than the Disney trilogies. It's not. Interesting. That said, The character and plot arcs are so much more focused in Lucas trilogies. In the prequels, Anakin trekked from the gifted child slave to Sith Lord, and Obi-Wan's growth from optimistic Padawan to tempered Jedi Master. Both work. By contrast, the new films drag characters to and fro, more concerned with self-consciously echoing or subverting character moments from the original trilogy. Rey sneaking around the Starkiller base and studying under an aging master. Kylo killing his father, beheading Snoke. He did not behead Snoke. He cut him in half. And then asking Rey to join him. Then forcing them to confront truly challenging dilemmas. Qui-Gon Jinn ignoring the council to teach Anakin. Anakin avenging his mother. The prequel trilogy is a bloodbath, and that gives the movies real tension. Not only are the individual arcs less focused, but the cast of characters is overstuffed as well, with a central three of the original trilogy, Luke, Han, Leia, and the new three, Rey, Finn, Poe, three villains, Snoke, Kylo, Hux, and the host of supporting characters and cameos. There's a reason every random contributing character in Lucas trilogies wasn't played by a celebrity like Justin Theroux, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Laura Dern, Benicio del Toro, Lupita Nyong'o, and so on. Having fans in the theater gasp every 5 minutes because of a new cameo, or because that stormtrooper was Daniel Craig, distracts from the central characters and narrative. Yeah. Lucas, by contrast, formed a supporting cast of talented actors whose names people probably didn't know, with the exception of Samuel L. Jackson, of Christopher Lee, Jimmy Smits, and a handful of other supporting actors with successful careers outside Star Wars. None felt like they'd been shoehorned into a galaxy far, far away, simply because they were friends of the director or fans of the franchise. Yeah, shoehorned. Shoehorned into bad story and bad writing. Shoehorned that. Yeah. Show no mercy, Darth Sidious. Yes, I want to talk about plot armor. Plot armor is the tongue-in-cheek name for when important or likable characters are protected from realistic consequences because the story needs them. Think of every movie where a single good guy guns down a million bad guys, while every bullet fired at him seems to miss by inches. The effect of plot armor is that, over time, the whole movie begins to appear increasingly artificial. The audience doesn't feel the characters are at risk, and the characters never have to make difficult decisions, since the consequences don't truly matter. Like strong character building arcs. That could help. A strong character built arc in a story is what makes a good story. A good story with other things that help it along the way. Celebrated writer Kurt Vonnegut, I screwed that name up, put it simply in his advice to other writers: be a sadist, and George Lucas is, in a good way. Anakin's master Qui-Gon Jinn gets killed in The Phantom Menace, and Darth Maul, the coolest bad guy around, gets bisected. In other words, cut in half. Anakin's mother gets tortured, and Anakin responds by killing every man, woman, and child in the Tusken Raider encampment. Anakin loses limbs. Padme dies in childbirth, and Jedis are exterminated, even the younglings. The prequel trilogy is a bloodbath, and that gives the movies real tension. In fact, the only characters we know will survive are Anakin, albeit in an unrecognizable form, Obi-Wan, the Emperor, and Yoda. The few meaningful deaths in the Disney trilogy feel intentionally parceled out for the maximum emotional heft. One of the original 3 cast members is killed off at the climax of each movie so far, and no one of much substance gets offed besides. Some fans might point to Snoke's death as a significant effort to surprise viewers, but most of the meaning of that scene emerges only in the context of the Vader-Palpatine relationship that it's so clearly playing against. At the end of the day, we never knew anything of note about Snoke. Ditto Captain Phasma, another example of needless celebrity casting, who stands around looking cool and then gets killed off with no development in between. Yeah, no character development. Bad written stories. That's what it is. Suckiness. This pattern might change when the final movie rolls around, but I would be deeply surprised to see any of the most likable characters die. Will Abrams dare to shed young blood or leave a significant villain like Kylo Ren in power? Of course not. Yoda. The fear of loss is a path to the dark side. Perhaps what everything boils down to is this. Like any studio, Disney fears losing money. Though I'm not privy to the inner workings of the studio, money seemed the clearest motivator for shutting down the Star Wars anthology movies after Solo's poor return. They don't get it. They still just don't get it. Even the Access Media don't really seem to get it. Yes, Disney did shut it down, but you're really skirting around the issue. It wasn't because of Solo's poor returns. Completely. It was because we decided not to go. Those of us in the fandom menace decided to not go at all. Because of what they did to Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi. Period. Money seemed the clearest motivation for shutting down the Star Wars anthology movies after Solo's poor returns, and it's likely why Solo was plagued with top-down micromanagement in the first place, including giving the axe to a talented director and hire Ron Howard. Giving the axe to talented directors to hire Ron Howard. Yet you couldn't mention the fact that it was Phil Lord and Christopher Miller. Maybe you mentioned that further down, but Phil Lord and Christopher Miller were replaced with Ron Howard. Paint by Numbers studio director ever since A Beautiful Mind won the Oscar. Yeah, you have to take some chances sometimes when you have movies and make movies and write the scripts and have good writing and good acting, good directing, good producing as well. Where George Lucas famously had, and if people don't like my vision, they don't have to see it mentality. Disney and Abrams see to fear soiling a beloved franchise with precisely what made it beloved in the first place. Experimentation and boundary testing. How about we take the experimentation and the boundary testing, put that back in, put the good writing back in, and get the political, gender pandering garbage out of TV shows and movies. Write good stories. Stop subverting characters that were always one thing and then you have to change them just to be diverse. Write a new character for that person. Let their weight in itself in the story. Sell it. Let the good writing sell it. Even Rian Johnson's The Last Jedi, which fans largely exasperated for tearing down Star Wars conventions, missed the point. Johnson fought to subvert Star Wars lore, not to make a particularly innovative movie. So many scenes felt fuller of winking references than crucial plot or character moments. His dialogue leaned more towards Joss Whedon's Marvel humor than Star Wars tension building. Did a $250 million production just begin with a 3-minute lead up to Your Mama joke? And his plot revelations felt more like manipulative twists achieved by withholding information from the audience in characters and opportunities for character development? Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. Poe's ill-advised mutiny killed an untold number of innocents, for instance, but his decision stemmed from Vice Admiral Holdo's inexplicable opacity and was the lesson really to blindly submit to chain of command. Propaganda. Let's brainwash them weak-minded people out there. It seems to me. In a way, Johnson's Disney entry was more ambitious than Abrams, but neither tried to swing for a home run in the way Lucas did with all his movies. If The Force Awakens is a ground ball, then The Last Jedi is a bunt. I wouldn't even call it a bunt. I'd call it a foul ball, and the fucking catcher caught it. A little cheekier, sure, but still aimed squarely at well-trod dirt. Disney's cautiousness has led to good but never great Star Wars movies. Bogus. No, I don't agree with that. It has not. Not a bit. No. Nada. No way. Nothing there. And back to the article. And that's why I will always take the bad dialogue and incredible moments of the prequels over a Star Wars trilogy that has neither. Hail to the fandom menace. Now come on, Hollywood. Stop smelling your own farts. You might get mistaken for arse sniffers. Remember, when you go woke, you go broke.
Please subscribe to Bear Nerd Fun. Smash the like button. Goodbye.
Say hello.
Hello.
Hello. Say hello.
Hello.
Say nerd fun. Nerd fun. Nerd fun. Say goodbye. Goodbye.
Bye.
Hail.